Tanika. I want to make sure I say that right. Um, word? Word? Okay. No, it's well. It's well. So welcome to our presentation, Going Far Together, Building Coalition Amongst People of Color. We have a small, intimate group today, so we're definitely going to engage with one another, and that's what Courtney and I are hoping for during this time together. So we're going to get started. For those who grew up in a church home, and you're going to make eye contact with somebody or get up and just say, neighbor, I'm glad you are here today. So meet somebody you probably haven't had an opportunity to connect with. I see you, touch and agree, and just say, neighbor, I'm glad you are here today. All right, I'm so glad you are here today. Good morning. Yes.
Come over here.
Neighbor, I'm glad you are here today. I'm glad you are here today. Yes. 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 I love it. That's a good look. Yes. Yes. All right. I love it. All right, thank y'all so much. What we hope is throughout this presentation, we get a chance to essentially walk through different practices of how to build coalition. That's one of those simple strategies, but it gets you feeling good. It gets you affirming individual who may need it the most. So with that being said, be mindful that it's definitely an engaging presentation as we talk through how to intentionally build coalition amongst people of color.
Awesome. Blessings. It's so good to be here with y'all today. I know it's super awkward because this mic isn't amplifying, but it's actually going to that recording over there.
Yes.
So I'm just holding it as a formality. So if y'all are like, it's not this, just tell me to speak up. Anyways, my name is Courtney B. Francis. I am an assistant coordinator at Florida State University. A little bit about me, I started working in the Aimho region in Arizona State University, and then I came over here to Florida State University to pursue my PhD. My research interest is making college accessible for Black and brown students with autism. And actually Black and brown students with disabilities in general. But that's kind of where I'm at. And some things about me is that my top strength is achiever. I'm an aspiring movie critic. I think we all kind of critique TV and movie in general. And I also shine best when I work on large projects, when I get to connect with students, and when I'm given creative ownership. I don't know if y'all know that feeling, but when you can create the idea and put it into place, I shine. I love it. But that's me.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. My name is Deanna Hughes. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And a little bit about me is I fell in love with student affairs without realizing it. I came to school as first gen. I was just excited and nervous. And during that time, somebody reached out and was like, hey, you want to be an orientation leader? And I was that person that was like, I'm going to try it out. Long story short, throughout OL, somebody was like, oh man, you would make a great RA. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but if it's like this, I'm for it. Throughout the entire time, I majored and focused in business and sport administration for both undergrad as well as my master's at the University of West Georgia and Georgia State University. And it just was mentors like Don Vavrick Palmer and Marilyn Tyus who was helping me to recognize that I could utilize my transferable skills to definitely be an asset in student affairs when I was questioning, like, oh my gosh, did I choose the wrong career choice? Like, I really like this, but I don't know how it will measure up. So long story short, I fell in love with it. I never left. I currently serve as a residence coordinator at Florida State University in Wildwood Hall, which is a hall composed of first-year students, a living learning community for social justice, and a living learning community for nursing. And as you can see, like, these are the things where I shine the most. I love being a spouse. I love being a mama, y'all. I have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 10-month-old that keep the Hughes household interesting. My partner and I have a vlog. Like, we're always just trying to affirm individuals and just enjoying the roller coaster of what it means to be Black, what it means to be a parent, what it means to be human, all of those things with healthy relationships. And I tend to thrive with my circle, so the individuals around me are happy, healthy, and living holistic lives. So those are the conversations that I enjoy having and navigating through.
Awesome. And so before we get any further into our presentation, we wanted to do a land acknowledgement. It's so important that we do not contribute to the erasure of indigenous cultures and populations and people. And so we want to take a minute for you all to kind of sit with this land acknowledgement, read it through, kind of let it sink in, and think about what we can do to start contributing to not erasing indigenous culture. So I'll give you all a minute with it. Awesome. And so if you are, by any chance, if you identify with these or you find that there are some names that we didn't have up there and there's some people that need to be identified, please let us know so that we can update our slides and we can update it in guidebook, because we really want to be intentional about that. We want to make sure that we're taking up space to do so.
All right, so learning outcomes, y'all, we know, we love it, so we're always going to reinforce it. So during this time together, we hope that you all are able to, alongside with us, understand, recognize, and affirm racial battle fatigue.
We also hope that you're able to articulate the importance of coalition building amongst peers of color.
Not only that, but we want you all to take away 3 strategies to preserve your self-worth and advocate for yourself in the workplace.
And then demonstrate community building techniques with other peers of color. And so Toni Morrison, the great queen, I love her so much. She has a lot of powerful things. She says definitions belong to the definers, not the defined. And I think it's so important that we keep that in our memory, because our stories matter. Each and every one of your story is so important. And that's part of the reason why Deanna and I started by sharing our stories and our journeys, because we want to make sure that we are putting it out there and we are taking ownership of it. But in addition, we hope that us being able to share our stories kind of frees you to be able to do the same in this space. We want to make sure that this is a collective. We want to make sure that everyone's able to contribute. And so please, please, please share with us your thoughts and your ideas, because your stories matter. And sometimes we don't get that affirmation, and so we want this space to be that space for you.
All right. Okay, so what we're going to do now is start to build that space based on agreements that we can all be on the same page on, because we recognize that at the end of the day, we want this to feel and be a safe space for individuals of color to implement the strategies, share aloud those strategies, in which we build coalition amongst one another. So Courtney and I are going to take this time to essentially ask you all to think about, reflect on what it is that we feel we can honor in this space together, as far as agreements when we continue to engage in conversation and talk about those pieces of stories to affirm one another. So whenever something comes to mind, you can go ahead and shout it out, and we're just looking for 2 to 3. And we can snap our fingers if there's like agreement with it. If y'all like Ashe, amen, we can do that too. But just as long as folks do recognize what they hope for in this space is also agreed with. So anything on your minds regarding an agreement? All right, anything that you all want to share a lot about what you hope to get out of this space? I know you saw the learning outcomes and heard from us.
Well, I know something that I really hope that we have in this space is vulnerability. I hope that that's something that we can all kind of agree upon, trying to be that with one another, as well as support. That's something that I really hope that we can collectively do for one another.
All right. I see some head nods, but does that sound good as a foundation? All right, so vulnerability being shared in this space, as well as supporting one another in this space. All right. I know it's in the morning, y'all. I get that.
So before we get into kind of the stuff that we do at Florida State University, I thought it was really, really important that we kind of touch on or highlight the research, because what we're saying is very true. We all feel it. We all know things happen, but we want to make sure that we have a little bit of research to back it up. And so we're going to talk about the research on statistics of people of color in the workplace. Then we're going to briefly go over what racial battle fatigue is for those who may not be familiar with the term. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what statistics say about community building amongst people of color.
All right. Y'all excited about colorful charts? All right, so we have two of them. The first one was essentially recruited from the College and University of Student Affairs. It's called Coupa through HR. And in 2017, they essentially looked across various universities to look at race and ethnicity breakdown at various levels. So the first thing that you see is the breakdown between individuals in positions that are referred to as staff. So when we think about our departments or the division in which we're under, think of those names and those faces that hold these spaces. And as you're looking at it, it's okay to kind of like say out loud the questions that you may have, because it's kind of going to help us to reinforce the importance of coalition building. Because as you notice, across it all, it's probably about 42% total of individuals of color that has representation in these positions. Go ahead.
Well, when we say people of color, like,
Yes.
what does that actually mean if they identify as Latinx? And they might be white passing or Asian white passing. Some of the data could be skewed because of that specifically and how people perceive or not perceive how they are treated in the office space.
And that's very true. I know I can't really speak to how they encourage people to self-identify, because we all know when it's time for demographics to be taken, there are things and boxes that we check off. And it starts at the very beginning when we're applying for a position. But that is a very valid question. And also recognizing phenotypes. So sometimes you can't even necessarily see that an individual represents a person of color, be it indigenous, Black, Asian, Afro-Caribbean. But no, that is definitely a fair assessment.
I don't have a question, but it's just, so I went to graduate school at USC, North Carolina, and it was interesting. My master's is in social work. So during my practicum, the school that I served, middle school I served, was predominantly students of color, specifically Black students of color. And it was so interesting to acknowledge that there were not many job opportunities for people of color within the area that showed us in a more of a leadership role, right? But I go to the school and I'm on campus and I'm in dining services and everybody's Black. And I'm saying, good, job security, yes, my child has, wakes up and know that mommy and daddy has a job, but it was like, how, it's inspiring to say, yeah, I'm just the cook. I'm not the executive director, because those faces were very much different. And this was something that I always, it's like, you can use it in a positive spin and say, yes, this is offering opportunities for people of color to have a job. At the same time, when we're talking about career paths and developing my job into a career, this is what we attain and aspire to. My child looking up to me, and just kind of trying to piece all of that together.
Yes.
And not see all those faces. I think maybe out of pretty good school, and out of all the dining services at that time, it was maybe one person in a managerial position of color. And just something that when I go into spaces, I always think about who's working.
Where? Yes, Amar, thank you for sharing that. And that's actually a great transition from this slide to the next, because it talks about and shows the executive level positions and the representation therein as well with individuals of color. So what you'll be able to see with that is about 1/4 of individuals in these positions identified as people of color. So it went from like 61% on that first slide to individuals who are the front facing. So, those that are cooking, those that are allowing our halls to look in pristine condition, those that are working on our landscaping, et cetera, office assistants, administrative specialists, to executive level positions being 26%. So that definitely reinforces the point that Omari just shared as well. Yeah, but thank y'all for looking at it and sitting with it. It is a lot.
And I think it's interesting too, because when I
Thank y'all.
And so we wanted to kind of give you all the definition of racial battle fatigue, a cumulative result of natural race-related stressors, response to distressing mental and emotional conditions. These conditions emerge from constantly facing racially dismissive, demeaning, insensitive, and or hostile racial environments and individuals. And we'll get a little bit more into racial battle fatigue, but we wanted to make sure that we all had a working definition of it. I know that we all have different definitions, or we might cite someone else, but this is the one that we're working with for today.
So diving a little bit deeper, we wanted to honor the individual who named it, and it was a critical race theorist named William Smith. And essentially, that definition was founded on him looking at studies of black men in spaces, being marginalized, dismissed, demeaned, and talking with them through their experiences. And essentially, William identified that racial battle fatigue stems from microaggressions and racism, be it covert or overt. And some of the things that RBF actually caused based on the story that was shared, as well as what folks opened up about having to even sometimes be hospitalized, which says a lot about what racial battle fatigue can lead to, is chronic anxiety, insomnia, tension headaches, sometimes as bad as ulcers. So things physically manifesting because individuals are powering through dealing with microaggressions and racism. And I see a lot of head nods, but I'm sure that there may have been a point in time where you may have very well been overwhelmed by feeling like you were the only one. So for those who feel safe enough to raise their hand and say, I have experienced this, I think it's powerful for us to do that so boldly and look around in the room just to know that we're not the only one when it comes to if you've ever found yourself experiencing racial battle fatigue or symptoms like those tension headaches, chronic anxiety, always feeling like you have to run and run and run and go and educate and educate. So for those that are shaking their heads and looking around, shout out to those that kind of raise their hands. That's just affirmation for those who may be in a space or a place where it's like, I'm tired, it's a lot, it's overwhelming. So some of the statistics that we also took the time to look up was through a journal for psychology. And you'll see GAD, which stands for Generalized Anxiety Disorder, that also leans right back on racial battle fatigue. So that's defined as if it's been over 6 months and you're experiencing always feeling drained, be it physically, mentally, emotionally, you may be very well struggling with racial battle fatigue, or what psychologists say through generalized anxiety disorder. And these are just some percentages of the folks they surveyed that talked about, yes, I've experienced that. I couldn't really put my finger on it, but this is what I dealt with. And then you'll also see nuance between African Americans and Afro-Caribbeans, which talks a lot about the difference in histories in the Americas as opposed to the islands as well.
Awesome, and so we want to just highlight briefly, we just put a picture up there because we want to be conscientious of time and we want to get to that coalition building part, but some common barriers that Catalyst found, and Catalyst is a nonprofit think tank that does research on African Americans, does research on Latinx people, Hispanic people, and so if y'all have the opportunity, we have the links at the end of the slide for y'all to check out. But they said some common barriers that African Americans face in the workplace was not having an influential sponsor or mentor, lack of informal networks, lack of company role models of the same racial ethnic group, and lack of high visibility projects. And I see some of y'all nodding y'all's head like y'all kind of agree, like these are some things that seem to be a little bit of a barrier for y'all in your spaces as well. But we were reading through the documents and reading through the research, and we were like, wow, this kind of relates to what we've kind of experienced at some point in time, and kind of reaffirmed the need to do something. So then we looked at the research that talked about what are some successes for African Americans in the workplace, and something that Catalyst.org or Catalyst.org did, they looked at African American women, and something that they found was that African American women were able to find success in their workplace when they were able to build community, when they were able to connect with other people who were like-minded, who were like them and experienced what they were experiencing. And so a lot of them said that that manifests in going to conferences or joining networks or organizations in which the people who were like them were in those spaces and could process through and talk through the things that they were experiencing. And so that's where we realized that community building wasn't just something that we were longing for and that we needed and that we thought we should do. It's backed up by the research, right? Like, women are more successful, African Americans are more successful when they have the opportunity to build with one another. And we thought about it because sometimes we talk about it in the sense of Black pride, and I know sometimes people can look at it and think, why are y'all so prideful, or why are y'all trying to block the progress of other people? But that's not what it's meant to do, right? It's meant to uplift us, it's meant to build us, it's meant to help us get other people to the level that we are or higher. And so we thought about community building in the sense of, how can I help you? How can you help me? How can we get through this life and this journey and make it together, right? And so we're gonna pass out some cards for you all, because we have this activity and something that we like to do, and I'm gonna put this mic down, so try recording.
Here you go. It's 2. Take 2 and pass it down. Yeah, take about 2 and pass it down. Yeah, take about 2 and pass them down. You wanna do it, Tanika? Awesome.
And so
Here you go.
we wanted to do this activity with you all because we genuinely feel like affirming each other is so important, and it's something that we do on a regular basis with our peers. And so what we want you to do is pull out a pen, if you have a pen, and on one side of the card, if you can just write your name, you can write your contact, so if you want it to be an Instagram or a Twitter handle or an email, whatever you feel comfortable with, we want you to do that on one side of the card. And then on the other side of the card, we want you to think about something that inspires you. So if someone like Audre Lorde inspires me, I would put Audre Lorde on the other side of the card. Or if a Bible verse inspires you and it helps you reflect, put that on the other side of the card as well. A quote, "Without community, there is no liberation," Audre Lorde, because I love her. Put that on the card, just something affirming, something that gets you through, something that inspires and motivates you.
Yes.
So we'll give you a couple minutes to do that.
Poll everywhere's next. Yeah.
So put your name on one side of the card, and then on the other side of the card, something affirming. So if it's a quote, if it's a Bible verse, if it's a famous person like Martin Luther King, I don't know, something that inspires you, something that motivates you. Go ahead and put that on the other side of the card. And you can do that on both cards. So on one side, your name, your contact. On the other side, something that affirms you, something that you live by, a philosophy, whatever it may be.
Not now. Not now. Later.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we are going to get into some of the actual strategies of how to build that coalition mindfully amongst people of color. So a lot of you all may or may not be aware of a time in the social medias where professional clapbacks were happening. And they were happening from a lot of individuals of color who was trying to make sense of, did they really just say that? Or was that email? Hold on, maybe I misread it. Sis, can you come and look at this email for me? So we decided that we were going to share that wisdom in this space for a time when you may have been in a conversation or may have received an email. Because from experiences in our past, we've been there and we remember it like it was yesterday when we're like, hey, let's talk about this, because like if you press send, you can't undo it. And something that I've been really good at learning how to do is to reframe something that puts me in a place. So AKA those professional clapbacks that allow folks to recognize who you are, but you're also not going to be the one to be tried today. So with that being said, we would like for you all, if you have your smart devices, To
If
pull
you
them
don't feel
out,
comfortable calling it out in this space, we want to make sure that
that's
we have
respect.
this platform for you, so
Yes.
that you don't have to be the one to say it out loud.
That's
we want
real.
to engage with you in a fun way.
Yes.
Right? So we want you to, if you can, text 22333 to join, and then you'll type in Courtney Fran 303, and then you can type in whatever clapback that you've personally used, whatever clapback that you've had used on you. Feel free to share that if you're not willing to share it in this
Out
space.
loud, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Courtney.
If you find this continued problem existing, please exercise your right and autonomy to speak directly with her and notate your expectations for the con.
Conditions.
Condition. Gotcha.
Thank you.
They are really out here.
So if you want, we just wrote our name and how we want to be contacted. And on the back, it's like something that affirms that motivates you. Okay. But yeah, they pass it around later. Okay.
Conditions of the suite in the correct and respectful way.
Yes, that was the other part, yeah.
Oh, I see. Oh,
If you find this continued problem existing, please exercise your right and autonomy to speak directly with her and notate your expectations for the conditions of the suite in the correct and respectful way. I tried to get through without laughing, but laugh out loud at the end.
I know I'm really good at using the per my last email.
Yes.
Or the per our in-person conversation.
Thank you so much for making time to meet with me today. Per our in-person conversation, when XYZ was stated.
Moving forward, I'd love for us to collectively agree on an efficient way to communicate on this subject as we build the capacity of ourselves and the team. Okay. All right. If you find yourself to still be confused, misunderstood, or misled.
Dot, dot, dot. I have reattached the previous email below. Or the infamous forward button. Timestamp. Take care. Take care.
I see you. Take care.
Yes. I'm sorry. I don't understand what about my last email confused you. Can you clarify? Awesome.
I just used it last week, so.
Awesome. Yes. All right, so what we are doing, and I'm thankful that we're able to actually chuckle and laugh about, is an actual strategy. Y'all, that's the clap. I really believe that in my heart of hearts, though. I do.
I'm not emotional, but I am aware and knowledgeable. The way you are speaking to me is unprofessional and a bit surprising. I will not be spoken to that
Way, or in that manner,
manner.
or that way.
Okay, so you just being direct.
Yes. I can envision myself in a face-to-face meeting, though, having that clutch.
It's like calendar, like,
Awesome. All right. So thank y'all again for that. Hopefully some of us were taking either mental notes or physical notes, and more importantly, just being affirmed in the reality that there are times when we all find ourselves more than likely either providing guidance and advice on how to navigate these conversations, be it face-to-face or emails, and or there are times where we may be in that very position. So what we did right there was actually a strategy for self-preservation. Yes.
It's so important. I'm going to use Toni Morrison again because I love a strong Toni Morrison quote. But she talks about within this quote that when we get those positions that we worked so hard for, that we studied every night to get that master's degree for, that we worked tirelessly to pursue, we have to remember that hard work and then do the work to help others. Once we are free, we
Not
need
to
to
free
free
somebody
somebody
else.
else.
Yes.
And we may not feel free, we may not feel like all of our chains are loose, but y'all, sometimes we get to a place where we have clarity and we gotta help other people get
real.
We gotta help them get to that point where they're like, oh, I didn't know I could do this, or you know what, that's a good idea. Why didn't I think of that? And so what we wanted to do is provide y'all with a little bit of strategies that we've been using, and then hope that you all can share out with us as well some of the strategies that you have been using with your friends and with your peers as well.
Yes.
And so Florida State University, I love my crew at Florida State University. I love connecting with them and working with them. We literally have a blast just being together and fellowshipping with one another. And we found ourselves in spaces in which sometimes we were really processing through things like, why did that happen? Why did so-and-so say that? Could they have said it a better way? We've had those moments where we've been in each other's offices like, you know what, I'm going to go to her office, I'm going to go to his office, and I'm going to say this, this, and this. And we have to sit there with them and say, oh, okay, you going to do that right now?
Let's think about it.
Maybe you should sit down and we should talk that through.
Yes.
We want you to be here, right?
Yes.
We want you to stay here. We don't want to see you nowhere else.
That's right.
And so sometimes we have to have those moments with each other. And so we want to talk a little bit about the strategies that we've used with one another to kind of help us get to that coalition building with each other.
Yes. All right. So as far as creating space, some of the things that we've done was within our group, there's a subgroup that loves to work out, believes in it, sees those benefits of sometimes working it all out. So in that cluster of individuals, if they're not able to work out together, there's those accountability measures. So that direct phone call, because you're supposed to be there at 5:30 in the morning, but you know you also got, I saw the early birds in the house, and or that call to say, so how was that workout? Tell me about it, Kenyatta. And then you'd be like, we should work out tomorrow. Or you know what? I did that. I'm so proud of myself. I'm feeling better. It's about to be a great day. We also established Black professional development time that most times we'll call them power hour throughout the day so that we can kind of check in with one another, refocus on how are we accomplishing the things that we want to accomplish for ourselves so we can be ready for that next presentation or that next step. And that's concerted time when we agree on which part of campus we want to meet up, check in, and sometimes it is us bringing our work. We talked about doing a resume chop shop in the near future. Shout out to Career Services, but it's nothing like having perspective from identities that are just like yours on how to shine and be at your best in those areas. Other thing is like literal vibe checks. So if I see our brother Maurice or our sister Somata on campus and their energy is a little off, I can't be like, oh, it's so good to see you, and not address like, hey, so how we really doing? How we really feeling? And sometimes it boils to, can you take a half a day? Like, can we offset what's happening in your building so you can literally be checked out and not worry about, I got to come back to this, or I got this standing meeting, or I got this conduct. Let me take that off of you so you can actually recharge or decompress or take a walk to nowhere, because none of us are at our best selves if we're not able to give our best selves. So we're constantly like, just take a day just because. Don't wait till your dentist appointment. Don't wait till your doctor's appointment. Like, don't wait till you have to do something to take that day. Like, just take it.
And we try to provide coverage for each other in those moments.
Absolutely, which is important.
Like, just leave.
Yeah, find somebody. Yes, yes. And if nobody's seeing you, because sometimes we wear our masks well, right? It's okay to find that person in the group that you know you can really trust and be like, I am drained. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, but I also don't see where I can take that time. And again, it's establishing, okay, so who can we reach out to? Who can we call? Sometimes amongst our allies and advocates, like, hey, you're building right here, so do you mind holding it down while we take this trip together to just have a good time and get away, right? And then also just plan lunches together on campus. Sometimes that's one of the most refreshing things to do when you do recognize you're trying to find representation while trying to support the students who are like, hey, I really miss seeing you. Why you take that vacation though? I know it was 3 days, but I just need to come to your office. As well as the office connections that Courtney spoke about earlier. So if we happen to get that kind of random drop in, we already know. If we can, let's put it to the side, turn the monitor off for about 10 minutes and just make sure everything is good so we can walk out with some renewed sense of joy or some sense of motivation to keep it pushing.
And just to add just a little bit on
Absolutely.
what Deanna's saying, I'm one of those people who do need a little bit of structure, and so these Black professional development times have to be on my calendar like a weeks out, so that I can take that time and be there and be present. And so we try to make sure that there's structure, like once a month we get together and do all that kind of stuff. But we wanted to talk about some of the technology that we do. GroupMe, I know that y'all have all been in GroupMe chat. something that we have. We ask each other questions of like, hey, if a student is doing X, Y, and Z, are we supposed to contact so-and-so, or do we handle that ourselves? And so we process through that with each other. Where someone can say, hey, I'm not too sure how to do this walkthrough. Can you just come over tomorrow morning and help me figure that out? And someone will say, yeah, I'm cool. I can come over there for a little bit to help you walk through that. We also, something that we're really proud of, one of our coworkers created, it's a shared drive.
Yes.
And within that shared drive, and we also have Microsoft Teams, so if y'all want to chat about that a little bit, we can as well.
Yes.
But we created a shared drive in which inside that shared drive is a plethora of information for us as professionals of color. One of them is an awards Excel sheet. Something that we realized is that sometimes the hard work that we do as African Americans, as people of color in general, does not get recognized. And sometimes we see the work that we're pouring out and we're doing, and we're waiting and waiting and waiting for someone to recognize us, right? We're waiting for someone to say, that was a really good job. And I see a lot of heads nodding right here in the room. But sometimes that doesn't happen. But it's not because you're not doing hard work.
That's right.
It's not because you haven't been putting in the time. It's maybe because we just don't make the time to nominate each other. We don't make the time to go out of our way to write up that 500-word entry or 200-word entry for whatever reward. And so what we've done is created an Excel sheet in which you can upload the award that you're thinking of, write a little short synopsis about what you've done, so that someone can say, oh, there's an award due. They can look at that Excel sheet and say, I'm gonna nominate Deanna for that because she did organize that one thing in her building. Let me go ahead and nominate her for that, and vice versa. We want to make sure that we are helping each other remove any barriers that come to recognition.
Yes.
Office resources as well. A lot of times we have new people on board, and sometimes, as y'all know, it's not always as simple as like sitting through a training and you get everything you need to know in one sitting. That's just impossible. But what it is us figuring out like, okay, every year we close a building. Like every year we close a building. So those processes don't really change too much. So we can make sure that we save some things so that in the future, if someone comes in and they're like, I don't know how to do this, and I know we talked about it in training, but does anyone know where that paper was? We can say, oh, I have it. Check the Excel, check the shared drive. It's right in there. I don't remember what I'm supposed to be saying in this email. Do you know if it's in the shared drive?
I got you.
Check our shared folder. It's right there, easy for you to check out. We also have professional development stuff in there, so if you don't know what to present on with your RAs and you're like, I want to do something in staff meeting that celebrates Hispanic Heritage Month, but I just don't know what to do, it's in there. Anything that we're saying to ourselves, you know, I want to present on something at SEAHO, but I'm not too sure how to like lay out my presentation,
It's in there. Yes.
as well as like different conferences that you could go to get more professional development in the area of administrative work or in social justice or whatever it is that you want to do, as well as like resources and tips for if you want to go to Rely, like that kind of thing.
Yes.
And then the Outlook reminders. So like I said, I like a little bit of structure, so these professional development times
On the
gotta
calendar.
go on the calendar. And so I will create calendar invites and send it out to everyone, or someone will say, hey, this award is due, don't forget to nominate your students for this, and we'll put it on our calendars so that we can intentionally make time to recognize our students, intentionally make time to recognize one another, intentionally make time to recognize the people we work for, right? We just don't ever make the time, and so these calendar invites help us to do that.
Yes. And with the calendar invites for individuals who are not live on staff, we're mindful of the timing in which we're scheduling things so that if they're in a functional area where at the end of the day they're gone, they don't have to worry about feeling like they're always left out or not a part outside of the group me. So that's something that we've definitely modified because it's easy to be like, okay, housing, what we doing? But it's like, what about the assessment squad or what about that functional area? What about those individuals there? But it's been really refreshing to see those faces and continue to build and talk through things as well. All right, so this is you all's time to share with the room because we know it's wisdom. Sometimes there may be more questions, which is fine. But what is it that you find yourself doing in your spaces, at your institutions, when it comes to building coalition amongst people of color? Go ahead.
I want to say hi, everybody. I think it was easier at my last institution, right? I was at BWI, I'm not going to know the name, but we became like a family, like inside but also outside. So we did like those power hours.
Yes.
We did go to the events together, support our students together, like just was really visible in our spaces. But then we would work out, go to each other's house for dinner and stuff like that. So I mean, at the institution now I'm at, I think it's a lot more siloed, so there's not opportunity to do that. I recognize that I need to take on the mantle and do it. Like, so when I get back, I'm gonna start recruiting. But it's like you have to like really gauge, like, you know, because all what they say, all skin folk are not kin folk. So I mean, it's really I mean, we want to impart our wisdom and build this community, but maybe everybody's not receptive to that. So
And that's real.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amari. Yeah.
At my previous Omari, but at my previous institution, so I just want to start by saying that I might choke up because topics like this, they kind of like just like a little fine needle that kind of stabs in my
As
neck.
well. Let it go.
Because obviously there's a lot of trauma that I'm trying to still unpack. One area, I'm not really sure. But either way, at my previous institution, there was a notice that there was a lack of support for people of color. And for a long while, I was the only one, specifically in residence life, right? Then there was like, you know, maybe in our academic success areas, 3. You know, we can count on our hands how many people of color were in the area. But either way, one thing I wanted support with or to start was the Staff of Color Association. So in my last year, they ended up, you know, kind of kicking it off. I left because it wasn't enough to save me. But we need to start the Staff of Color Association. But of course, we're trying to get support from the school, and we're trying to get support from the school, and then you have to go to HR and all this kind of stuff. So that is something we tried. Just talking, you know, talking to Collar yesterday, and about maybe starting something. I was like, yeah, not where I currently am. It's not gonna. Based on the quote you just said, it's like the people that are of color there now, because now it's almost like I'm still in the same space that I was in for 3 years, except now I'm not. So I'm just gonna throw out a lot, like when you're saying like something that inspires you, I'm like, I don't have anything that inspires me. Like literally, I don't feel driven. I don't feel a drive for things. I know there are things that I want to do. So now I'm just kind of floating in this space. You know, to sit here and go to these community functions and gatherings. I'm like, oh, it's me again. You know, and then be frustrated because the people who I do identify with, safe space, right? So
Yeah.
I feel sellouts. And have maybe forgotten that right and that responsibility to kind of give.
Yeah.
And that is my perspective. That's my perspective
That's
on
fair.
it, right? Not fully understanding the powers that be or the reasons why people have to do certain things. But it's like it's about support and mentorship and things of that nature.
Yes.
Like, oh, I asked you to be my mentor, but because of this professional thing, I'm just not gonna, because I can't untie the two. I can't separate the two.
That's
You know,
real.
so now I'm sitting here floating like, okay, well, there's no mentorship, there's no support. What do I do now?
No, thank you so much for sharing that. And I just want to look at you and let you know we got you. You're here for a reason. And those cards that we're holding on, y'all know we're going to have a church moment again where there's definitely going to be that exchange. Because sometimes if you're in places where you don't see you and you don't have that, it's nothing like getting that random phone call or that email or somebody in a direct message if you're on social media that'd be like, affirm you to create affirm you. You're matter. You a dope black man. Don't get it twisted, King, right? Like those are things that people might need when they're just like, oh my goodness, I don't know. I don't even like, I'm just here. Here's my smile, everybody. But I want to cry right now, but I just got to pretend to be happy. So those are real things. And I appreciate you for feeling safe and speaking your truth to power. Yeah, but it will get better. Watch and see. Yeah. Anybody else wanted to share, like, what are some things? So right here, Bree, and over here.
I know for me, now that I'm at a different institution, kind of having similar things that we were just talking about at our previous institution. And while now that I do or just living on campus as a whole.
Mhm.
So one thing I noticed just in the short time I've been here, less than a year, is we don't have a space for our Black RAs. It's just like, we're retaining you, y'all are applying for all these jobs on campus,
Mhm.
but you don't have a space to be you, to talk about you, and to talk about how are we as a department supporting you and or serving you, or
Mhm.
where are we dropping the ball. So myself and one of our second year grads, she came to me, she said, hey, I tried to do this last year, but I wasn't supported. Can you help me? Everybody, like, people know that you're here. They want to hear your wisdom. Like, I just need your help because I'm
Yes.
about to leave in May. I'm like, all right, bet that's true.
Yeah.
You got to focus on you. And so trying to get it off the ground, just letting the students know that, hey, we are here for you,
Mhm.
and that I want to help fix your experience.
Yeah.
Yes, you're applying, like, we don't have an issue with getting you here,
Mhm.
but we need to keep you here. We want to make sure that we are not attacking your mental health because it's just like, oh, great, we're graduating Black women, but how are we serving them?
Mhm.
How are we providing for them? How are
How
we
we
answering their
doing?
questions because the system is still not great?
Mhm.
Just because we have the minority serving institution checkbox and we have the retention of Black women and we have we're graduating them at a higher rate. All of those mental health stigmas that are coming with that, that's also happening here
Mhm.
because they're very high achieving.
Yeah.
And I've also taken it upon myself to step out of my department because I totally believe in affirming myself outside of my peers because we can go back and forth all day, but we got to go back to the same area. So me venting to you is just like you preaching to the choir. I need to go outside of that. And so I've been working on creating a millennial group with other Black professionals. And we get together once a month and we've been making sure that we stay true to that, but also taking it a step further and reviving this Black Women's Caucus for staff and faculty.
Mhm.
Mind you, I've only been there for 8 months, but I'm letting these Black women know, like, yo, these younger students, they need us, and we need to make sure that we are here to stick together because we keep complaining, saying, like, there's nothing for us, there's nothing for us. Well, create something.
I see
Something
it.
was here, we need to revive it, and as long as there's at least 3 people that are willing to take that on, then we need to make sure that it happens. And I think sometimes it gets lost in translation with our seasoned professionals that are there. When we come to the table, they're just like, well, you're just complaining, so what is the space for? It's like, first, give me the grace to vent and explain to you what's going on and let me process. And then, if you need to hit me over the head, you can do that, but don't take away my voice in the process. And I think sometimes we butt heads with our seasoned professionals that also look like us because it's kind of like a rinse, repeat type of cycle that they're in. And they're just like, oh, well, I forgot 25 years ago I was you. And now I need to revert back to how did I feel in that space when I was you and I was just starting in my career and what did I need and I need to provide that for you.
Right.
Thank you.
And sometimes we don't, like, the difference in age sometimes is felt because the struggle during their generation was so much different than the struggle during ours, and so sometimes I feel that disconnect. And something else that you said that I truly appreciate that you're doing is that collaboration outside of your department. I know something that we do as well, and we didn't put it on the slides,
It's
but
okay.
there is the Black Girl Magic Lunch that happens on our campus once a month. And so if a new Black person comes on campus, if a new Black woman is on campus, we let them know, like, you are welcome to this lunch. You bring your lunch, or you bring money and buy lunch, or somebody's like, you don't have,
I got you.
welcome. And so we try to do that outside of just our department because, you know, it's important to have those cross-campus partnerships and collaborations because, like you said, like, we're venting to one another, but then who's gonna, what are we gonna do now? We have to be able to talk with other folks. You have something?
Yeah, so I have something to contribute, but more so a question. So at my Victoria,
Hey,
at my
Victoria.
institution, I'm a second year grad, and so there's not very many people of color on our staff. It's literally all people of color come from our graduate students that are there, obviously, to get education. And so when we've sought out and tried to, like, create, like, the spaces to have that coalition and those, like, bonding moments, like, they haven't been supported by the department. Instances of the professional staff there that I would think that would want to pour into me, like you said, all kinfolk. So, it's like, I don't know how to, like, really take that and process that because it's like I'm looking to you to pour into me and I'm not getting supported in my development the way I feel like I should. And we're in the middle of nowhere. So yeah, it's great to have these group meetings and have these people all over like the state, but what does that look like for because collectivism is not a collective value to every black person.
That's true.
You can't come in assuming that this person is automatically gonna help you because they look like you.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't even about all skin folk and kin folk. It's just it might not be a value of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you say this is the relationship I want with you? How do you name these are the expectations I have with you?
Mm-hmm.
Can you provide this for me?
Mm-hmm.
And asking for that help, not seeking it out or expecting it without it being said. And I think sometimes we get caught up in that. And I want you to, like, I want to humanize the fact that everything that you're saying, and humanize that you're going to continue to keep going through that in this field.
Mm-hmm.
And humanize at the same time the other black women are going through that, and that's what the coalition is for.
Yes,
Because mentorship doesn't have to come up. Mentorship is lateral.
that's real.
Mentorship is from our students up. You know what I'm saying? Like, it don't always look up to seek that support that you need, which is what I was kind of going to share about coalition building. We talk a lot about staff, but like, how do we coalition build with our black students
Mm-hmm.
and our students of color? And I primarily say black because that experience looks different for black people versus people of color.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to take too much away from it. I'll let you continue that, but for real, like if you're struggling with that, I would say seek people outside of your department, seek people outside of your institution, and let people know what kind of mentor you're looking for.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you, somebody in this room can match you with somebody who will be invested in you,
Mm-hmm.
who will match well with your energy, and who will actually be like, let me get you what you need.
Mm-hmm.
It's about vulnerability and it's about naming what you need, not expecting unsaid
Mm.
expectations.
And
Thank
I
you.
will add to that. Thank you for that. It was
Yes,
so good.
Ranisha.
I will also add that, like you're saying about that mentorship, looking up, and I know sometimes it's about looking around and asking like what resources you use.
Mm-hmm.
Because like sometimes we look to mentors to be like guide me and lead me and show me the way, and sometimes it's all about like what resources did you use
Yes.
to get to TPE? What resources did you use to figure out how to do occupancy better? Like sometimes it's just having that one thing that you need and asking someone for that. And it's not looking for that relational aspect. I know sometimes that's what we need and that's what we want. But
That's
just
fair.
figuring out what it is you need to do your job better to like successfully navigate that space is sometimes a quick way, because I experienced that in my master's program too. And sometimes just going to those black people who are, like you said, struggling just as much as me and just saying like, what is it that you do to do this?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not looking for anything, I just need this. And sometimes that builds, but sometimes it's just like, oh, here it is, I will give it to you.
Yeah.
Like if I can just help you with this, I can do it. And then another thing within talking to other black folks, because I know not all skin folk is kin folk, but being careful and mindful within our spaces that we're building with one another to make sure it's a space that stays inclusive of all. So if you're gonna drag other folks that aren't in the group message, that's not the place to do it.
That's
right?
right.
Like if you're trying to build and coalition build, that might deter people who actually get along with other people in the department, right? You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we think that like, oh, we're gonna get in this group meet and pop off on somebody and someone and some process, and we've made very clear that this group message, that this email, that this shared drive, that's not what this is about.
That's right.
This is about what do you have a problem with?
Yeah, solution oriented.
Let's fix it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to do that, like I can't stand so and so, come to my office.
Yeah, we got spaces for that.
Go to the person like Deanna said that you care about and that you resonate with because you trust them and you can be vulnerable with. Do that with them. In this group message, we're not trying to do that.
That's real.
And because it will deter people. It'll deter the people who are like, oh, see, now black folks always doing something. Like that's not what we want. We just want you to understand that this is a space that if you need to find somebody, you can, but we also have the resources readily available.
Yes.
Really quickly, so I know as far as things that I use in my institution, I think coalition building sucks here really badly for where I'm at, and I really struggle with it because I feel like I'm consistently the only one trying to put something on for us, like all the time, and it's exhausting. So at one point, you just like, I gotta sacrifice. I'm sacrificing not even creating this because I don't have it in me.
Yeah.
Because if it's not on me, then it's not gonna continue to stay. Prime example, I created affinity spaces for Black RAs specifically, for LGBTQ plus RAs, and for international students who are RAs. And I had my name written down for every single thing except for international because I don't identify with that. But I was just like, wow.
I can't do it all.
Every day on Wednesday or Thursday, I'm working till like 9 o'clock, and ain't nobody else in the department doing this. So coalition building looks like, for me, sometimes letting go and allow
Yes.
other people to step up and develop themselves and challenge themselves. after hours. I'm the one who was like stopping and talking to them on campus. So when it comes to coalition building, when we talk about Res Life specifically, it's those small interactions with our students too. Like
Yes.
they be checking for us. My
Yes.
students of color actually care. They be like, "Yo, you good?"
Mhm.
One of my RAs, she's Latina. She
Mhm.
was like, "I'm so glad you got to go to this conference because you needed it." Just randomly text me, and I'm like, "Damn."
That's love.
Students want that.
Yes.
They really do. We have students come up to us and say, like, what are we doing for Black History
Yep.
Month? Or what are we doing
When we
for
getting together next
Heritage
time?
Month?
Yeah.
Like, hey, do you think y'all could do something? Like, but we can't
Do
that
it all.
for them, and
Yeah,
we
we can't
be
be
ourselves.
ourselves. That's real.
Right? Like, if we can't have that, you know?
Yes.
And I think that our shared drive really, with the resources, it makes it easier for those folks who, like,
Cool.
those Black folks who are like, I don't really do all of that. So, like, oh, you have a program that you've done with your RAs before? Well, let me just go ahead and take that and try it. Like, let me just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I know we're kind of like at time, but I don't mind if we get to the one of the points with those cards in y'all hands, and we can definitely continue dialogue. Yes, and thank you for saying that, because I was about to say we can continue dialogue afterwards, but I definitely want you all, so one of the cards you're going to hold on to. You're going to keep it in your purse, your wallet, pocket, wherever you know you need to keep it. That other card, you're going to find someone that you haven't had an opportunity to really connect with, and you're going to give them that card. Y'all are going to exchange cards. So for those that are like, yeah, we got to reconnect, this is a sure way to remember whom you're doing it with, as well as how to get in contact with them and find that thing that may just work for you or somebody else to be affirmed.
So I want you to get up like you did in the beginning and take that card
Yes.
and share it with your neighbor.
Yeah.
Say, neighbor, I want to build with you.
Neighbor, I want to build with you. Yes, no.